on a serious note about the managerial situation, I know you're going on about the Premier League, etc., but I think in regards to like lower league teams like my team, Notts County, I think that managerial changing, I think it's like you say, it's one of those things. People have a knee-jerk reaction and they sack managers for the sake of it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, managers like Brendan Rodgers and, you know, I could go on a list. I mean, Sean Derry, for example, in my opinion, in my club, he should never have got the sack. He should have got to at least the end of the season. Now we've got a manager in called Riccardo Menez, who I've never even heard of. He sounds like an Italian waiter, and we've got him in charge, and it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, he can't even knock a barn door with a banjo, and even Emil Heskey's done that, and he's got a new contract at Bolton, which, by the way, is some kind of sick joke. Whoever's put that on Twitter, come talk to me, because I'm going to sort you out. But I'm not going to say what I do with any intent. But the point of the matter is this. Managerial sackings and changes, it's all horrid. Football is a business, and at the end of the day, it might be a results business, but you have to give managers time.
Yeah.
I mean, what about Louis van Gaal? I mean, look what he's done. I would say he's done a great job at Manchester United. I mean, they beat Man City. That's the cream of the crop. He's a better manager than Manuel Pellegrini, and there's more chance he'll leave the club and Van Gaal will leave next season. But I think that what managers need to understand is football is a business, and if they don't pick results up, sadly they're going to get the sack, which is unfair because, I mean, people like Sean Derry, who obviously he's local to Notts County, he didn't get the results, but I don't necessarily blame him for what he did, because at the end of the day, the players perform for you. So if the players don't perform for a club, why should the manager get the sack? Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
If you see, I mean, to end my point is, why should managers get the sack when the players don't perform? I mean, I'm going to go back to my team, Notts County, and I'm going to say this. Sean Derry should never have got the sack, and I'm going to put that out there because he was a good manager, he had a good assistant, and he was doing really well. The fans bought into what he did. We have the fourth worst budget in League One, which is why we're on the verge of getting relegated to League Two. So Tom Wood and everyone in League Two, I'll be seeing you next season. But at the end of the day, and Mike Hardiman as well, I've got to say that, no cheeking pun, but what I'm trying to say is that the managers out there are not given enough time because it's a results-driven business. And it's quite sad, really, because they should do. There's some good managers out there who are in the game now, and they'll probably get the sack. I mean, like Sam Allardyce. If they keep losing games, he'll be gone. And it's a shame because he's a good manager. He could be a future England manager in the coming years. But my final point is this. It's a results-driven business, and it's really sad. It should not be like that. It should be based on the players' performances, whether they buy into the manager's strategy and, you know, tactical awareness. And players aren't doing that. It's not the manager's fault, it's the players. And at the end of the day, the players need to take a good hard look at themselves and, you know, step up, because it's the manager who's getting the brunt of it, and it's not fair.
No, you know, I actually, Big T, I actually totally agree with you. And by the way, welcome home. I actually totally agree with you on that, because at the end of the day, I've said before, it's the players that step across those white lines and do it. A manager can put out tactics and change tactics and all this, but if your players, similar to what Liverpool did against Aston Villa, if your players ain't turning up and ain't putting in the effort and ain't putting in the application, then you've got nothing. You can have the greatest tactics in the world, but you've got nothing. And what did we get from that Liverpool what did Liverpool get from the Aston Villa game? As much as it pains me to say, we got a big fat nothing. We deserve nothing. We got nothing. Disallowed goal or not, we deserve nothing. Would you say it was more? Would you say it was more -5 stars? Oh yeah, I did that earlier. What about the Didier Drogba disgrace? And now it's playing that back all over. But at the end of the day, I think it's just one of those things. I mean, Brendan Rodgers, in my opinion, he's going to get the brunt of that, and it's not his fault. It's the players. Brendan Rodgers should be there for, like you were just saying a couple of minutes ago, he should be there for the long term because he's a very good English manager. And people are going to berate him in the media, which is an absolute joke because I don't understand why. I don't know what they're talking about. But Brendan Rodgers deserves the time, he deserves the funds, and he deserves the stability that he gets at Liverpool, because at the end of the day, they're a good club. And as I was saying to you on Facebook the other day, I think that the fact that they're pushing for the Europa League, it's not a hindrance, it's a good thing. Because as you were saying, the expectations of Liverpool, without being disrespectful for once, I think were too high last season. People were pushing too high for a club that hasn't been in the Champions League for a while. And I don't mean that in a harsh way for once, but it's just one of those things. I think that if Liverpool will, more than likely, if they do get into the Europa League, I think Brendan Rodgers should sit down with his players and tell him, look, Europa League's a good competition, we've won it before, we should go out there, the winner's getting the Champions League,
let's go for it, because it's a competition, it's a trophy, and you win some decent money for it. You get exposure. It might raise a star. So I think, people need to get their expectations right, give Brendan Rodgers a chance, and understand that it's the players who go out there and perform. Players like Mario Balotelli aren't going to hit a barn door with a banjo. They're not bothered at the slightest. As long as they're getting paid, they don't care, which is why I think, not trying to stir any rumours, but if I was Brendan Rodgers, I would go for somebody for, like, say, Radamel Falcao, who he knows he could play around, who he knows would play in the system that he wants. He's 29, 30, but I can almost guarantee to you, you get someone like Falcao instead of Balotelli, he'll bang you in 20 goals a season. It's as simple as that. And Liverpool, they get somebody like that, they will be a force to reckon with, and that's all I've got to say about that point.
You know what? I don't know about Falcao. I don't know. I'm not gonna. I can't co-sign on that, but as an example. But no. It's one of us. We've actually, funnily enough, Pitch Talk meets David McLaughlin will be coming out soon, and just to kind of one of the extra videos or the trailer videos building up to it may be about fan expectations, but watch this space for that. By the way, keep an eye on Big T. Actually, he's doing a lot at the moment, and Talking Pie is coming soon. So it's one that was Big T. You're going to keep us updated on that, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I say, if anybody wants to help out, I mean, it's your say as well. I mean, we're obviously going to be including Pitch Talk in it as well, so hopefully we'll get you guys some more exposure as well. Just thought I'd let you know as well that the Notts County's ladies team has actually asked for me to have my advert in their programme in next week against Liverpool, funny enough. So hopefully if we can get another partnership going between ourselves and, Pitch Talk and everybody else, it works out for everybody, because at the end of the day, it's getting your name out there and you want to help each other out. So, I mean, it's the least I can do for all that you've done for me. So, let's do it. In the words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, let's do it.
Let's do it. No, fantastic stuff, Big T. And you know what? Thank you for being a part. Thank you, of course, for being one of the PT family. Of course, and good luck with Talking.
Thank you, Liz.
And the other journalistic stuff you're involved in as well. Are you hanging around with us for a bit?
Yeah, I'm going to probably pop on Skype in a bit, but I'm just going to go and get my oral skills back again, because I'm kind of losing my voice. So I'm just going to go and get myself prepared in the right way. I don't want to get the explicit rating on iTunes. I best go and get my voice back. But like I say, it's great to hear your voice again. I'm not like that, because you could turn that the wrong way. But no, it's great to hear you all again. Like I say, keep up all the good work, and I do see all your comments in Skype. I know everybody's doing really well, and like I say to everyone of the PT family, keep doing what you're doing and success will come. So hopefully I will see you all later.
Big T, take it easy, and thank you. Of course, we throw them teas up every week as one of us. Thank you.
Every week we throw them teas up. Nothing but love for Big T. But I think he raises an interesting point, right? And this is the part where I argue the counterbalance. So the question that was asked is, why does the manager get the blame? Why is it the manager's fault when the players are the ones who fail to perform?
Yeah, but it's the manager who buys the players. Are you going that way with it?
Not just that.
Because I was going to go that way with it.
I was actually going to do football management versus management in any other sector. And literally, there are a lot of requirements that are the same. So if you have these players that seem to be underperforming, just like any other manager in any other managerial position, it's the manager's responsibility to find a way to, inspire these particular members of staff, now in this case it's playing staff, to perform. It's to find a way to connect with them on a emotional level to get them to do what is required. And if a manager doesn't do that, that's the fault of the manager. Now, if you want to look at somebody who's quite effective in terms of getting the same types of players, in terms of mentality and approach to the game together, I use Jose Mourinho as an example. One of the reasons why this Chelsea team has done so well is because some of the players that have actually left didn't quite fit into his ethos in terms of the way that he wants the team to play.
And also, don't forget the £32 million striker they bought.
Well, there's that too. But what I mean is, in terms of mentality, he fits in with exactly what Jose Mourinho wants, right? And then when you look at it again, there are still a couple of players from the first Jose Mourinho team that are still there. So when you have this continued mentality that goes from the manager all the way through the players, I use Jose Mourinho as an example. One of the reasons why this Chelsea team has done so well is because some of the players that have actually left didn't quite fit into his ethos in terms of the way that he wants the team to play. And then when you look at it again, there are still a couple of players from the first Jose Mourinho team that are still there. So when you have this continued mentality that goes from the manager all the way through the players, in terms of delivering a message, in terms of what you'd like them to achieve and setting goals for them, that's very easy because everybody thinks the same way. Whereas if you have any outward distractions or someone who thinks slightly differently, who's not willing to put the work in, that's where it gets difficult. So, for example, players like Juan Mata and Andre Schürrle, as well as Mohamed Salah, they've all been shown the door.
Yeah. Well, Salah only on loan, huh?
Well, there is a permanent transfer option. I forget what the agreed potential fee would be, but yes, it's initially on loan. I think for 2 seasons.
Yeah. But I get
that's
the
my point in the sense of, and even Fernando Torres, right? If you cannot buy into the philosophy, if you don't make an attempt to buy into the philosophy, in Jose Mourinho's world, eventually you are shipped out. And that's really the end of the discussion. And you'll be replaced by someone who, fits into the team vision in terms of where they want to be the next few years, etc., and doesn't mind a little bit of hard work.
No, I heard it.
So that's why the manager is generally the one to blame, in that he would have a very strong hand in assembling the cast of players and staff that would be responsible for those performances. And at the end of the day, realistically, right, when the team wins and loses, you are very, very rarely to see, right, anyone blame an individual player or a group of players. Right? In the sense of, even if we use the example of West Ham against Manchester City, right? We would say things like, yes, James Collins scored an own goal, but is it his fault that the team lost the game? No. You'd say, you look at the tactical setup and you'd say, did West Ham play like how they did in the first half of the season? No, they didn't. Whose fault is that? The manager. So that would be it.
No, I mean...
In that, I would argue this to you, right? If the manager wasn't so important in terms of responsibility, why do you have one in the first place? Surely you wouldn't need one. It would just be players running around, sorting everything out. So you do need that managerial figure to orchestrate things, along with a great team of coaches.
It is one of them ones where, like, all right, Jamie Bailey, you want to jump in quickly before we have to move on, but have at it.
Yeah, Gezzie, I disagree and agree with you, and I've had to learn this sort of thing in the last few months. In the last few years, agree to disagree, because I don't agree with a lot of people, especially when they give compliments. In terms of Brendan, over the last few months, I've been watching how the Dutch team have been competing in all their games, and Louis van Gaal and Guus Hiddink have basically got 2 different philosophies. And if you look at it with Louis van Gaal, he is basically what Jose Mourinho is all about. That's exactly what you're talking about. When you look at Guus Hiddink, he is like Brendan Rodgers. Guus Hiddink is known over in Holland as the people's manager, and as much as you might say The Rock, the people's champion, technically he's not at the moment. Guus Hiddink will will have a player, if he says he doesn't want to play in a certain position, he'll find the right position for him. Whereas Louis van Gaal, just like Jose Mourinho says, you can't play in that position, off you go. And that's the thing with nowadays, especially with this whole, it's not always down to the manager. As much as us coaches are picking the players and making sure that they're ready for game day, them players have to do. I've got to agree with on both sides with Big T. If they're not deciding to perform on the day, then you're not going to get the result. It's as simple as that. I thought when it came to the Liverpool game, like just Newcastle, it's the same thing with Newcastle. Newcastle decided to get rid of Ben Arthur because he's overweight. Really? Are you serious? And when it came down to that, Alan Pardew had his team set out, and now he's got a team that he wants in at Crystal Palace. The same thing with John Carver. John Carver's made the biggest mistake of his life, taking this job. And the reason why I say that is because it's pretty much like Blackpool. He's got a whole set of players just to say, where do you want to play? If they say where they want to play, all of a sudden they've got to perform. If they choose not to play in that position, he's going to keep them in that. He's going to keep them there because that's all he knows. That's the problem with Blackpool. That's the problem with Newcastle. They haven't got a confidence boost, and they never did. Whether they changed the managers or not, the only thing that really changed was the fact that they just had somebody else telling them where to go. And the difference between what some of them were doing with Gus Poyet and others is that Gus Poyet was trying to get that little inkling, that little standard of play. He was trying to get them playing the way that he wanted to. And for some reason, every year and a half with Sunderland, they seem to drag off. I don't know what it is with Sunderland, but that's how it is. With all of them in terms of when it comes to being a coach, for me, I disagree. You can't just say that it's all down to the coach, because he's not going to go onto the pitch. All he's going to try and do is speech them into the point that they have to win. And if they're choosing to do the opposite, you can talk about man management, game management, see where they are in the league, tactical awareness, playing a different style of play when it comes to certain teams. Big Sam has a problem. Big Sam's problem is the fact that his team is still moulded around Andy Carroll. Andy Carroll's not on the pitch. He doesn't have a second opinion, and that's the problem with some of the old English ways. It's still one-dimensional. If you look at Steve Bruce, he tried to change it up. It didn't work. He's trying to revert back to what he's doing with Hull, and it still isn't working because he's still got the same players. And that's the problem. If the same players are thinking that they're going to be picked on Saturday, then that's where the issue lies. So I would say, if you do have an under-21s team like Southampton do, and they actually did win tonight, then why don't you just go and tell one of the big boys that you might have to drop down, just because one of the other boys that are coming to the forefront, and they seem to be a lot better at the moment. Then you have competition, and that's the difference between Jose Mourinho, Bruce Hiddink, Brendan Rodgers, and Louis van Gaal. That's the difference. You are creating an environment to be competitive. If you are not creating that environment for competitive edge at the top level, then you are going to find your results going downhill from the start. It's the same thing with when people say development works in a certain way. You can't be just developing for the rest of your life, because at some point you're going to have to be competitive in football. If you're not competitive from even 15 or 16, they're just going to tell you you're not good enough, and that's the truth. And that's the truth in this country.
You know what? It's one of a side of Kai about just time's pressing on a touch. But the fact of the matter is, as I said, we are not fans here, well, at least between us co-hosts and specifically me, not fans of this managerial merry-go-round. And as I said, we actually brought this up with Dave McLaughlin, the chairman of Alexandra Park FC of the Southern Amateur League, and it's a case of, I think, as Big T said, in terms of knee-jerk reactions. A lot of fans are guilty of knee-jerk reactions and not looking long-term. And I've said this on a number of occasions. A lot of fans are short-termist. But the question is rarely asked. Whenever someone says, oh yeah, get rid of a manager, the question is generally not asked, who is there better out there? It's generally just, oh, we want this guy out, and that's it. It's generally that, and that is part, and that is actually a major part of the problem. In terms of young players and development, we're gonna hit that. We've got a lot of summer special features actually lined up this season, so we've got a hell of a lot to go through. There was actually something we were going to go through tonight, but we've actually run out of time for it. But the Gman says goodbye. By the way, he's had to dash off. But the fact of the matter is, that managers getting the blame for players shortcomings. I think the manager does have to take some responsibility, but not all of it. That responsibility has to be spread, because you could buy the best player in the world, but if he doesn't want to put in the effort, then as a manager you're screwed. So there's give and take. There's give and take. Some coaches are good at being just good at being just coaches rather than managers. And some are very good at being managers, but not brilliant when it comes to the coaching side. you have to know, personally, I think you have to know within yourself what you really are truly good at. You have to know what you're good at to know, and then also you have to know what you're weak at as well. So one of them ones, accentuate the positives, and that's what you need to do. But as said, I personally think Brendan Rodgers could do with a bit of help.